Good afternoon, everybody. All righty. I'm sure everybody would just love to be hanging out and doing something other than come in to hear and talk about poop policy. But that's what we're going to do today. So my name is James DeRofi. I'm with the Old Farm District Neighborhood Association. We are going to be acting as the facilitator today and wrapping up the summary of the Septic-to-Sewer Ad Hoc Committee that the City Council authorized a little over a year ago to help address this downhill solution of poop issues. So, that being said, here's the format of how this meeting is going to go today. Where is Sally Ann? Sally? Is she in the room? Oh. So here we have the Mayor Pro Tem, is that the official title? So she is actually going to be addressing the issue officially at the City Council meeting Wednesday. There will be no policy issues discussed today. That will all be discussed Wednesday. Today there's going to be a presentation which will be a wrap-up of what the Septic-to-Sewer Committee figured out, and that will be by Dave Johnson and Beth Ann. They are going to do a 20-minute or so presentation, at which point there will be no questions during the presentation. Then we'll be opening the floor up to questions. For the questions, because the room is so packed, please state your question. They will rephrase or state the question again into the mic so that everybody can hear it, and then answer the question. This is a time for discussion. Pretty much everybody involved in this is volunteers, and we are your neighbors. So please stay civil. There's no need to get upset. Most of us live in the study area of the 599 homes. I do, Dave does. She lives in Larkspur. 8 of the 12 people or so are all on septic. So we are all in the same situation. So like I said, civil. That being said, one quick announcement. There is a comprehensive rezoning concern because the Old Farm is not having our regular meeting on Monday. So check your emails. On Monday there'll be an email going out discussing that. For some of you that is an issue, for others that isn't, but we do try to keep everybody informed. But that is a wrap-up of a 20-ish kind of plan that is very important for the city, citywide. So do not discount those emails. We do try to keep everybody informed of everything. Are we ready for the presentation? So, okay, so Dave's going to go first.
This will be on the website.
Oh, one quick thing. So we have all of this data and links on our website, Old Farm Band, and they link to the city's website. So on Monday morning-ish, this entire presentation will be available on video, but all of the data, charts, and everything that Septic-to-Sewer has figured out and come up with is available now. So if you do have questions, there are forms over here. If it does not get handled today, fill those out. And any policy question can be addressed at City Council on Wednesday. And if you do not like what you hear, you are absolutely able to go to City Council on Wednesday as well and state your issues there as well. But once again, this entire video is going to be submitted to City Council and city staff. Good, Eric? Okay. Dave?
Okay, I'm Dave Johnson. I'm Vice Chair of the Board of the Old Farm District Neighborhood Association. And I was a member of the Septic-to-Sewer Committee. 8 of the 11 members of the Septic-to-Sewer Committee live in the Kings Forest area. We were all on septic, so the decisions, the recommendations that we've made to City Council, we are imposing on ourselves as well. You know, we're not like your Congress where they can make laws that they don't have to follow, but you do.
Your mic's down.
All right, we're working on that. Sorry.
We'll get another.
It sounds like we may be having a second mic as well for questions. So this is a large crowd, senior center. Give us a moment, please.
He's getting another.
I suppose that might be used. I think we're getting another microphone.
No, try that one.
Oh, he's wrong.
Turned it off.
We come prepared. Apparently it's a battery problem.
And Sally just wanted me to remind everybody, no policy decisions have been made yet. So whatever the bulletin, KTVZ, whatever you've been reading on Nextdoor, whatever your neighbor who's been disgruntled has been screaming at you, this is all still information at this point. Just remember that.
Ah, it sounds like the microphone is working. Okay, is this better? Like my last statement is, we're not like Congress that passes laws that they don't have to enforce, but that you do. The recommendations that we've made on ourselves as well as you. So let's get started with our first slide, which is a history lesson. You can replay Sleepless in Seattle, which was a 1998 movie, and just because you like it. And the hero gets the girl. You can replay Armageddon, 1998 movie, because you like it, and the hero gets blown up. Again, every time you play the movie, the hero gets blown up. You can play the 1998 annexation of Desert Woods and Kings Forest because of the SEI coming through, and guess what? The city and county still walk away at the end of that movie. So here we are. What do we do to make it as painless as possible to do what the city should have done in 1998 to change the end of that movie? Okay. What happened is the SEI was recommended by a committee called SIAC, the Sewer Infrastructure Advisory Group, that started meeting somewhere around 2007. And they met for a long time, and they thought about a lot of ways to direct the piping that was going to support the Southeast. One of the most popular ones was down Hamby and then across the Ward, the extension of Ward, and over that way. However, it turned out that when they figured out all of the pumping stations that they would need, coming down through Kings Forest was the best long-range solution because it is all downgrade. So that's why the SEI went down Solomon Lane. However, the SEI is the thing that invoked the 300-foot rule. There are two 300-foot rules. The first one is there are 3 separate citations in the DEQ regulations that say that if you're within 300 feet of a working sewer, the county cannot issue you a permit to fix any part or change any part of your septic system. Drain field, tank, nothing. The other is a city policy that's even more restrictive if they chose to inflict it, and they haven't yet. Even though, as you can see up here on what we've shown as the study area, you can see here some areas in red that are not along the SEI, and the city has not enforced those people that live within 300 feet to go ahead and connect. However, that is a hammer that they hold. What's imminent is that the domino effect will catch up with you if you live in Desert Woods or Kingsford. Because the first guy, or the first homeowner that lives over here that has to connect, starts another 300-foot area. And then anybody in that starts another 300-foot area. And then anybody that goes, so eventually, my house is this one right right down here. Eventually, that domino effect will reach me. So eventually, I will fall within the 300-foot regulation. And that's not 300 feet as the crow flies, so don't get too worried. It's 300 feet along the city right of way. Next one. This is the study area, which is basically the chart that I was just showing you. Okay, I'm going to tell you, it's from Reed Market to Ferguson, and from 15th Street over to the canal. So all of that is our study area. This is what the City Council tasked us to do. Beth Ann is going to be telling you a little bit about the directions and the advice that we were given as a starting point, but this is the study area. Here's what it really costs. These costs were derived by our consultants, the Dow Corporation that's been supporting us and have been vetted by our city engineers, that if you did this on your own, or no, excuse me, if the city does the public part in its own right of way, the cost is $30 million, or about $59,000, close to $60,000 per person. And that includes the surveying, manholes, the sewer laterals into the right of way, road construction, road reconstruction, and believe it or not, the streets in the Kings Forest area are not to city grade. And we were brought into the county, we were brought from the county, these are to county standards. So the streets in Kings Forest are not up to city standards, and some reconstruction is probably going to have to go around this. So that raises some of the price as well. Plus the right-of-way restoration, landscaping and shoulders and stuff. But on the private side, septic tank decommission, which takes a permit, and 2 inspections. New service lateral to the right-of-way, which is the blue kind of brown line that you see coming out from your house. Additional plumbing. In my house, my septic tank is out back, and there is a total rock garden on either side of my house, and it's about 250 feet from my septic to the city right away. So I'm going to have a plumber come in and change the collection point in my house from pointing to the septic tank to pointing over to the street. So it'll minimize the amount of digging and piping that I have to do. However, the homeowner would be on the hook to do that. Plus the system development costs, which are around, what, $4,600 this year. Plus all of the permitting that's required to do that. And if you live below the grade, I don't know how many houses we ended up with. Is it like 30? Around 30 houses are going to be below grade and are going to require a pump to lift it up. And so that's an additional cost to the homeowner. Here are areas where this same thing has been done. And what you see over on the left are the years that it was done. You see the 4 project areas in which it was done. You see the number of lots that were serviced. Then you see the assessment that was made. And then you see those adjusted for this year dollars. You notice that both of those have asterisks because they are the public right-of-way portion of the thing only. Lower because there was still federal and state grant money that was available for clean water and sewage updates. And it doesn't account for the homeowner's cost at the time. And that included the SDCs, and I don't remember what the SDCs were in 2005, but they were probably around $3,000. So you can see the comparison. What we have recommended to the City Council is that for the projected area of the 503 houses directly along the line of the SEI in King Solomon Lane, that we cap the city's portion of the right-of-way portion at $18,000. So instead of the $60,000 that is the projected cost, we're asking them to cap it at $18,000. Are we through already? Okay. I think you're on.
I'm gonna open my water. If I take breaks to drink, don't fault me. All right, good afternoon. My name is Beth Ann Big Mays, and I am the chair of the Septic-to-Sewer Committee. We were formed over a year and a half ago by council, and all of us are volunteers, like Dave said. I got interested into this project because my house backs off to 27th, so I lived through the SEI blasting and everything, and the council reached out and they wanted people with finance backgrounds, and I'm a finance military officer that is now a stay-home mom. So this project lets me still think about things in a logical source while raising my 2 little kids. So I've been doing this for a year and a half, and with 11 other lovely people that live in the neighborhood. We were asked when we first started this process, we were asked to think about this for this project area, but not just this project area, but citywide. And hopefully whatever solutions we come up with for this project, the city can implement citywide. If you look at this map, and come up close when you get a moment, all of the green areas on this map are still unsewered. So there are 2,800, still on septic, but they are unsewered currently. So there are 2,800 in all of Bend still. This area is just about 603 that we're talking about starting. And the city has started this project here because it's the toughest area, it's the most amount close together, and the topography and the way that the roads go in this neighborhood make it particularly expensive. So they started here hoping that whatever solution we come up with can be replicated citywide. And we're already, we've been working with Dow, and during our committee process, they are taking this project area and done the engineering to a Class 3 engineering report, and they're hoping to have this done by to a Class 1 by the end of the year, and construction can then start from there. So let me tell you about
the difference between Class 3 and Class 1 is the uncertainty of the
Right, and the difference in classes from Class 3 to Class 1 engineering is the difference in price. You get closer and closer as the costs get more known. So our committee process, we've had over 12 meetings. We've been listening to experts from around the Northwest who have told us what other communities have done, what's possible in this community, what the past. We talked about regulations. We've met with DEQ and the county. We've pretty much talked to anybody that we could talk to in this process to get as much information as we can as we were making our recommendations. We had a set of values, which is in our report, that we all sat, the 11 of us, and stuck toward. We wanted to make sure this was an equitable solution, something that would last for a long time, that could be replicated, that doesn't pit neighbors against each other in the neighborhood, and that we can move forward with in a timely manner. So we've also done a couple of open houses. We've done a couple of neighborhood association meetings. We've sent out flyers. We've sent out a report, and we have some outreach people from Dowell going door to door to ask just where you would like your lateral on the property, just to kind of fact check the engineering work, knowing that not everything's going to be perfect. Okay, next slide. What we have asked from the city. We started this process learning what the costs were, $30 million. And as Dave said, that whittles down to a price tag of about $60,000 per home if you just do the math. What we've asked from the city is to reduce those costs. We've asked the city to contribute $21 million of the 30 to this project. We've asked the city to waive SDCs for everybody who signs up for this project in this process, eliminating another $4,600 of cost.
What's an SDC?
SDC is a system development charge, so the city charges anybody in the city, from business to anybody, to connect to the sewer, this SDC charge. And it's, I think it's modeled every year on costs, and so it increases over time, but it's a yearly, plug into the system cost. But we're asking the city for homeowners and anybody that joins this process that this fee should be eliminated as just one more way to get the costs lower. We have taken a step back and we have thought about this. We learned from another community in the Northwest that they established a STEP program. And so we're asking the city to do the same thing. It's going to be a septic tank elimination program. It's going to be a formal program that has funding that not only figures this project out, but then goes around and finishes the rest of the city. We are asking for a timeline from the city, so if you start construction in this area and say you're done in 3 years, then somewhere else knows that you're coming, and the next, say Larkspur here, that is all on septic, knows that in 3 years, or when this project's done, you're moving to this neighborhood to do, so that we don't have homeowners still putting money in their systems, helping them limp along when this is an infrastructure problem we need to solve citywide. We think there needs to be a lot of transparency around this process. We've asked them to build a safety net program into this, knowing that there are going to keep people out there that live, with barely any money month to month, and any new cost you ask them to do is going to put them in a tremendous hardship. We totally understand that. So we've asked the city to develop a robust safety net program, knowing that the costs are going to be hard to manage for some. A code change we're asking for in the city code to make sure nobody gets foreclosed on during this process and nobody gets put out of their home. That is something we absolutely do not want to see. A coordinated contracting process to cut hookup charges. So we've been working this process for over a year, and we have discovered, or we are hoping to discover, that if the city bids this project out as 503 homes that need to be connected, and not just the public infrastructure needs to be built, but the private side connection needs to be built. If you can bid this package out to a big contractor, say Taylor Northwest or somebody, and we have all these people willing to do this work that needs to be done at once, we're going to get a way cheaper cost, like a Costco kind of version of getting this work done, if everybody agrees to doing it at the same time. If Taylor Northwest says, oh, I have 500 more private side work I can do too, then I can bid this project cheaper and hopefully spread that cost to the homeowners. All right, next slide. So I'll go through again. It's a 14-page report we came up with that we are recommending to City Council to adopt. These are some of the key components out of the 14-page report. The formal STEP program, and that it's coordinated, financed, and a step fee from all ratepayers is established. So we're hoping, you might say in your head, if we're recommending a cap of $25,000 for everybody to connect to this process and to join this STEP program, there's still a gap in the city funding. They can't cover it at $25,000 from the initial rates. And there are 5 different types of ratepayers in the city, us being the lowest, but a brewery being the highest because they're the more tax on the system. So instead of increasing rates incrementally to solve this problem citywide, we're asking for a formal step fee of somewhere around $5. It'll be a flat fee on your sewer bill, and all the city ratepayers will pay it. So we're spreading this risk citywide. With this $5 fee, if it was to be $5, it generates about $2 million a year that can throw at this problem. And there are about 35,000 ratepayers citywide that will then be contributing to this, instead of it just being on this neighborhood's back.
Okay, how many ratepayers?
35,000 about in the city limits. Think about it, I mean, we were about 90,000 people and a family of 4, you estimate being in a home, so about 35,000 ratepayers, which is increasing because we're growing at an exponential rate. So in 20 years, this 35,000 ratepayers, not only connecting the other 2,800 homes, adding them as ratepayers, but with growth, this step fee and program could really be robust. The coordinated construction, we're recommending that the city, like I said, bid this out and contract this work so that we can get an affordable price. Our cost should not exceed $25,000, and as Dave alluded to, that's $18,000 on the private side, and we're estimating that the private side work only be $7,000, and the public side be $18,000, so a cap of that, at $25,000 to have all the work done. Infrastructure, decommissioning. When we were thinking about this, I mean, we were imagining somebody being as efficient as, well, you're digging up the street, why can't you just put that dirt in my septic tank and decommission it all in the same time? I mean, you got the backhoes working, they, can solve it all at once. We talked about the city code change. Begin with this project area, knowing this is the most expensive, because any lessons learned in this work can be applied around town. I mean, if we find out through this process that we can bid it and get the private side work at $7,000, then maybe in the next area, that's a sticking point that we can drive it down even less. The step fee, I said, covers the portion, private costs limiting to 7, waiving SDCs, because that's an additional $3,400. And we are recommending everybody should hook up. And our recommendations, and this is something you can definitely go to council and voice your own opinion on, but our recommendations is that everybody hook up at once, just thinking that it's better to rip off a Band-Aid and just solve this problem instead of doing one street and then letting people hook up at their own time, and then you're living through longer construction, you're living through longer management of the process. It adds a whole nother headache to the city and the STEP program. I mean, if this guy's gonna wait 5 years to hook up and this guy's gonna wait 6 years, I mean, it's just a whole nother project you're adding, complication you're adding to the project. So, but definitely that's something that you all have a voice in with City Council. These are just our recommendations. And we are recommending that construction begin. The Class 1 engineering should be done in December, and we're recommending that work start in spring. All right, next slide. These are the advantages and disadvantages for doing it yourself and going with our recommendations. If you were to do it yourself, you would have to manage this project completely by yourself, hire your own contractors, get your own work. It's your own liability with your contractors if they mess stuff up. You have no coordinated place to go through to get help. These are all the things that you're going to have to figure out, and the potential costs. Another issue with this is if this coordinated process does not happen and the city and council walk away from our recommendations, we're leaving the neighborhood to wait for a person to fail, and when that person fails, they have to hook up to the sewer. When they build their infrastructure could be 200 feet away, and they have to connect. Then if their neighbor in between them and the infrastructure fails, that neighbor could just jump right into the infrastructure the first neighbor had to build at potentially over $100,000. And how do you get your money back from your neighbors? I mean, you're setting this neighborhood up to fight each other legally for years. Because you're at the end of the day potentially screwing your neighbor. And if I put in $150,000 worth of infrastructure and you're plugging into my infrastructure, I'm going to want my cost back. It's not fair that I built it for you to use. So we're trying to, in this process, completely avoid that and do this as a community and as a neighborhood and solve this 20-year-old problem once and for all, and then go to the rest of the neighborhoods in Bend and say, we did it. We can solve it for you too. So,
Beth Ann, your mic.
my mic, I'm sorry.
Hold it.
Okay, let me know if I get too quiet. So the advantages of joining and developing a STEP program way outweigh the costs of going it alone. Next slide. These are our asks from you guys, from the committee. As you've been told, we're meeting with council, or the listening session with council is on Wednesday. And we were having this meeting together today to open up the forum and get your voices heard. But we also wanted to focus you. And so anything that you said to council was productive instead of negative. So we're asking that please help move this program and this process forward for our neighborhood and our community. And please go to council and the listening session and tell them how you feel about it. But make it in an organized fashion. Please don't yell and be negative. Our biggest fear is that council says this was too difficult of a problem to solve and we have to walk away from this. And if that happens, then we may be 20 years down the road now and still trying to solve this problem. An additional problem with that is that we know costs go up per year 5 to 7%. So this year, these are the costs, but if we wait 5 years to do this kind of work, potentially we could be looking at a $70 million project versus a $30 million project. So if you go to council, we hope that you ask to support all of our recommendations, but ask for the cap to be lower. Put pressure that $25,000 isn't affordable, and that maybe a step fee go higher, and you put more pressure on the rest of the city to support us in this process. That we can't afford $250 a month, and we can't afford $25,000, and we can spread the risk around. I mean, if the step fee was $10, then the project costs could be cut even more. You know, it just depends on how these scales can be balanced. But we really hope that the scales stay balanced. Does that make sense? We really want this to happen. We know there are people in the neighborhood that absolutely could be doing fine. And probably their systems are great and could last another 20 years. But we also know people in the neighborhood that have sewage leaking in their yards right now. I've been to some of those homes, and those people need this today. They don't want to keep limping along with their systems. They have that much usage that they just can't move on. We met at a family's house that still had 6 kids at home, and their system is 40 years old. This chart from county records, it could be incorrect. I will give you that, but this chart shows that in this neighborhood, blue areas are all over 25 years. So more than half of this area is super aged and is typically failing. They may not be to you because there's just one person, but to DEQ, over 25 years is a failing system. So these all could be potentially failing. And the weight of this percentage, over 50% in this neighborhood, means this is a real project that needs to happen. Please, if you guys come to council, the listening session, bring helpful ideas. If you don't like our report completely, that's fine, but if you have a different solution or suggestion, please bring that instead of this is absolute garbage and this needs to be thrown away. Please stay informed and be part of this process with us. We really hope that we can come together as a community and solve this for everybody, because it's one of the toughest problems that a community has to face. I mean, there are so many people affected by this from one extreme to another that it's been, and I know City Council will tell you this too, it's been probably the hardest decision and the hardest problem they've had to solve. So with that, I'm going to open it up to you guys and take your questions. Go ahead.
Yeah, what is the $250 a month that you mentioned over and above the initial cost of $25,000?
Okay, say it again.
You mentioned $250 a month. We were discussing cost versus as things increase, the $25,000 and the $250 a month. What does that $250 represent?
Okay, so he's asking the difference between $250 a month and $25,000. And as a committee, we are recommending that nobody pay more than $25,000 to have this work done, or not more than $250. And there needs to be a financing mechanism that makes this affordable, whether it's tied to a lien on your home, whether it's, we've met with a clean water revolving fund here in Oregon called PRAC 3, and they offer clean water loans at super affordable rates. They even have about a safety kind of program in them. If you make under $35,000, you get 15 years of just paying interest and then a balloon payment at the end, and the rate's like 1%, 1.99%. But we've tasked the city to come up with a creative way to build a robust safety net program to make this affordable. And the 250 is, we're saying, no matter what you come up with, you can't charge a person more than $250 a month, because it's not affordable.
That's a lot of money.
It is. It absolutely is. It absolutely is. And I hope that you all come to council and you say, we love this program, we just can't afford it. 250 isn't affordable. 25,000 isn't affordable. I mean, we started this process knowing, well, the city said to us, if we use our rate model right now, and the sewer rates are steady to increase at 6% a year for the next 2 years, all those rates can fund, because there's another CIP list of city projects. This isn't the only project going around in the city that's sewer related the city has to solve. They have a list of problems, but they said to us, the only amount we can afford right now is 50% of this cost. And we're saying that's not affordable. So you have to come up with funding dollars, which is what the step fee is going to do. So again, if you like the program and the idea, you can push for lower than $25,000 and an increase in a step fee to spread this risk on more of the ratepayers and less on the homeowners.
Okay.
Sure.
So for the questions, just because a lot of you do have questions, Henry back there has another mic.
Do you want to form a line?
Well, let's not do a line. Let's have him float in the back, and let's start on sort of one side and go quadrant in the back and then quadrant in the back. So otherwise, we're just going to be picking and choosing randomly. So Henry, go back into that corner. So anybody in that back quadrant ask a question? You've got the mic. What, you have the mic? Where'd the mic go? Yeah, we have a second one. Here. Okay, well, I guess start here, then now we got to find a second mic. I'll go look for it. Okay, Henry, do that.
Go ahead with your question.
Don't a good portion of those SDCs go to Park and
Sorry.
Rec?
You know, there are.
Repeat the question. Repeat the question.
Doesn't a good part of the SDCs go to Park and Rec? And does Park and Rec have to agree to lower those fees? Or does the city have enough power over Park and Rec to insist that?
So these are SDCs, and the question is, does Park and Rec have a portion of responsibility or in the SDCs? Do they have any effect, right? And I don't know, Tom, can you speak? Do you know SDCs?
There are 3 separate taxing districts within Bend. And these are all separate and are not combined in any way. The city collects property taxes, Parks and Recreation collects park taxes, and the school board collects taxes. None of the school board, none of the Parks and Recs money goes to any of this. And your property taxes don't go to any of this. The tax fund, the fund that operates the sewer operates as an enterprise account, which means that only the people who use it pay for it. So the ratepayers pay for all of the sewage work. And Beth Ann was talking about the capital improvement program. We have a major capital improvement program going on the north side. There are several other capital improvement programs that are in works right now. And all of that is going to be paid eventually by the ratepayers, and none of your property tax goes to them.
And that rate model is already set to increase, I think it's 6% for the next 5 years, just to cover the cost of that. Yeah, the rate model is already set. They do it on like a 5-year set, and so that rate increases to do all these projects are already set at this 6% increase per year. Okay, next question.
So my understanding of two things is that this next city council meeting is not participatory. So can you clarify that? That's one point.
Sure. He's asking about the next council session. Okay.
And then the second was the whole concept in general of making sure that sewer systems or septic systems aren't contaminating would be for a nitrogen contamination to a groundwater source that's being used by the population for water supply to be used in your home. Is that actually happening? Are there groundwater wells in our area
No.
being affected by a contaminated plume from our area that is supplying homes today?
No.
I don't know that there's
There
a
aren't.
study being conducted for that.
Because that's why you would go ahead and do this.
Right.
You know, otherwise, it's not a problem that actually exists.
That's
Septic
right.
systems work just fine.
So to that point, he's asking about, is there an actual groundwater problem? And I believe there is no study, but I do know, I met with DEQ in the county, and they have told me that some of these systems just don't have any further to go. The leach field can't go any further, and so inherently you can't do any more fixes on some of these systems because they don't have the room to grow. But you're right, there is no study that shows the groundwater is being affected by this. And then first to your council question, Wednesday is a council listening session, and they have 2 hours dedicated to this problem. Every person will have 3 minutes, I believe, to state their comment or their opinion, and they'll listen for 2 hours before their work session. But even this work session, I believe there's no decision being made on this.
At what time is that?
It is next Wednesday at 4:30. 4 at 4. at city council.
We won't fit in there, right?
You can,
I want to amplify one thing about the well water. It doesn't make any difference whether our well water is at risk right now. The thing that matters is that there is a law. And if you really want to go and fight the law on the basis that our wells are not affected by this, feel free to go do that. But the problem arose when the SEI came down King Solomon and the 300-foot rule became in place.
Is that a state law?
There are 3 different sections of the Department of Environmental Quality, which is a state agency, that say that the county cannot give you a permit to fix any portion of your septic system if you're within 300 feet of the working sewer.
We keep hearing about $25,000 limit for households, except this thing that came out with our pamphlets says that the city council has already rejected.
Yes.
And they're talking about $80,000 to $100,000 that each homeowner is going to be responsible for.
That's not the case. The city council has not rejected anything. As we said up front, no policy decisions have been made yet.
Have you read this?
Yes, I read it.
Because that's exactly what it says, that the city council did reject it.
If they reject it, that would be your cost. If they reject this and you're each on your own, that is the cost that it will run. If we combine the community together, we can lower that.
Let me read exactly the statement that he's reading from. And it says, the impact of the city council rejecting the city's committee's recommendation of capping the participating homeowners' costs at $25,000 could result in homeowner costs of $70,000 to $100,000 or more. What it says is, if the city walks away, you could be stuck with a bill for $70,000 to $100,000. It doesn't say that the city council has made any recommendations. I wrote this.
Okay, we got our mic back, so we're gonna mic back and pass the mic around, all right?
We've been keying on the floor, and one thing I don't understand, all that 3/4 of an acre.
wait, I don't think it's on. Press the button on the bottom. There we go.
There's only 5 houses. There's only 5 houses on the whole cul-de-sac. Everybody has 3/4 of an acre. I've seen it across 27th Street. They just bulldoze the house and they put in 2 streets. And they put in basically like 10 or 15 houses.
Yeah.
Why would we pay to have the sewer put in when eventually somebody would buy our property and they would bulldoze like my house and they would put 3 or 4 city houses now on where I am? Or a gas station.
Your question, his question is,
And then stop on social security disability. Only made $17,200 a year. I get $1,200 a month. And I've epilepsy. And I'm retired, I'm disabled, and then I have to pay all the medical costs out of that. $250 is totally not affordable.
we said
But
to
the other thing is, I 100% own my house. It's not a bank, it's me, paid off. I ain't going nowhere. And it's not you, it's the city, I'm telling you. No one's gonna foreclose on my house, because they're not gonna get me out.
we have not recommended that anybody foreclose on you.
So actually that,
It's the whole reason we set a safety net program.
and his concern right there is what I started this entire meeting with, the comprehensive rezoning issue.
So there's a comprehensive rezoning concern that affects all of Bend. So for instance, a lot of the study area is zoned RL. Currently, nobody in the middle of, say, Kings Forest can sell their house and someone go in, tear down their 1 acre house and put 12 homes. It's not zoned that way. So, in a situation like his and everyone else, then please read the email that you're going to be getting on Monday and be aware of what is going to be going on with the comprehensive rezoning package. Sally, do you have a comment on this? I think City Councilor himself.
We were consulting in the back. Our understanding is that none of these properties, which are currently zoned RL, they're RL in the comprehensive plan as well as on the zoning map. So these changes that have been recommended to us, your neighborhoods are not affected by the zoning. So that particular outcome, through at least this process right here, I mean, I don't see it happening. I don't think any of us do. So just to let you know.
Hey, my name's Larry Glenn. I'm retired Deschutes County Sheriff. I live in your neighborhood. And thanks, Sally, for showing up on your Saturday to hear our voice. And you can tell we're the last remaining part of Old Bend. You can tell by our vintage and gray hair here, so we don't participate in the west side of town things. And we all moved to the county one time. Now we've been gobbled up by the city. A couple things come to mind. I would caution trying to make a deal with the city that if we all hook up at once, we cap at $25,000. Now, in this area someplace, I'm certain that there's some people that have to do some extensive work on their system that might think $18,000 to $25,000 is a good deal because they have no other option. For those of us that have taken care of our systems, have lived in the area and are mindful and watchful of what goes on, I would be cautious about that because I don't think that would be the right thing to do. In terms of the law, what the law says is what I just mentioned. If my septic system fails and I apply to the city or the county, primarily the city, for a permit to revamp my system, if there's a system in the street, I have to hook up to the street. It doesn't say, that's one of the methods or the methodologies, but also another thing that's happened to us, Sally, in terms of Southeast Bend and being gobbled up by the city limits is, for some time now, we've been paying wastewater fee for stormwater, excuse me, for God knows what. And if the answer is because we maintain the drains, they don't. There hasn't been a vac truck in neighborhoods out here forever. So you wonder what that's about. But we all understand, I think we all understand the methodology and the thought behind growing infrastructure and what needs to be done when it's mindful and the right thing to do. But just to do it because doesn't seem like a good reason to me.
If we have to get assistance put in everyone's homes, is it going to change our tax structure? Are they going to, is the city going to come back in and say, gee, you just paid for the sewer, but now your value of your property just went up, so now your taxes are going to go up. So that would be like any tax clause.
Yeah, that's city policy, and I don't believe any of that. The county assessor isn't planning on coming to your neighborhood and reassessing you after this work. It's not anything that's been discussed. I think there's a mic.
There's a mic going around.
Since I have to form this as a question like in Jeopardy, could I also just confirm, one, I want to say that the committee was tasked with a horrendous task, if you ask me. And I just want to confirm a couple things. One, what's listed as the #1 primary benefit for the city on the literature that I've gotten was to fulfill the city's requirements for this annexed area. So the city's looking for a way to fulfill their requirement, right? Also, after that, two of their main benefits or main charges, I think, to you all at the committee were, one, to find a way to get the homeowners to assist in paying and utilize what was gonna be an average septic tank replacement for our contribution as the neighborhood towards that, right? So they charged you with that task, finding a way to get us to pay. They also charged you with the task of finding a way to get 2,800 additional ratepayers on their books, i.e. money. They want that influx of monthly rate. I think a lot of us that bought where we bought because that we managed our own property. And I made that assessment when I bought my property. What's that cost gonna be? So my question then is, regarding finding a way to get this neighborhood to pay, how did we arrive at $25,000? I've heard that that was the estimated cost for a catastrophic septic system failure, which there might be a half dozen in our neighborhood that have a catastrophic leach field, tank, lines. But most of us aren't at that catastrophic. So how do we get at $25,000? And then the other fee related to that is the step fee at 5. Why not make the step fee 15?
Absolutely.
And all of us go home and we don't worry about it. We spread that 15 across 35,000 properties instead of 400, 500, 600 homes.
Absolutely, absolutely.
My name is Mike Luke, Camelot Place. Touch on what he said. What we don't realize is on top of $250 a month, an average household, they got 2 small kids, we're going to be paying $70 a month to be hooked up to the sewer just every month, on top of our $250. Did you guys take that into account?
Yes,
so now we're up to $320.
No, we said that that's why the cap is too big.
So that includes the monthly? For how long does that, until it's paid off?
We did our financial modeling for over 20 years.
For 20 years, $250, we don't have to pay any of the monthly
We
step
said you couldn't
increases.
charge somebody more than that per month because it wasn't.
For the project or the monthly charges as well?
Both. So the financing option, whatever the homeowner, how they choose to pay for this, cannot cost them more than $250 a month because that's not affordable, or they would.
So are they foregoing the $70 or are they just taking it into the 25,000?
That's included. Your rates are included in our calculation.
In the 25,000?
And then
$250?
Yes.
For 20 years?
As a committee, we looked at this like people don't really think about.
That wasn't in the paperwork.
The total cost. People think about what's it going to cost them monthly. So we wanted to have an additional recommendation to council that $250 as a new bill for anybody is about the max. I can't pay another bill for $250 a month right now. So we are saying we had to grapple with what is affordable and how do you tell how many different people what's affordable. You just really can't because everybody's financial situation is different. Everybody's. But at the end of the day, $250 as a new bill, you just can't charge it anybody more than that. That's what we said as a committee.
Here's a question.
Sure.
So I have 2 questions about the private side work and the budget for that. So you're estimating $7,000 for private side work. So some neighbors, it might be $700, and some neighbors it might be $70,000. So how is that? If, for instance, my work might be $30,000 worth of work. So how would that be?
That would be covered by a step fee. So we talked about that too. And the reason we wanted to cap this at $25,000 was hoping that the neighborhood then wouldn't fight with each other, knowing that somebody's got a crazy house with 300 feet to the driveway and potentially it's going to cost $85,000 for a contractor to connect them. But then there's somebody else who's just 30 feet off and it's only going to cost a little bit to connect them. So if we cap this cost per lot, then the neighborhood in essence is coming together and sharing the costs of the guy that's costing $85,000 and the guy that only costs $15,000. Now it's an average and you don't have people living on the same street paying different amounts for this. That is the last thing we wanted to see because that is not an equitable approach to solving this problem and we didn't want the neighborhood to fight with each other. I don't want to pay $70,000 for the same service you're paying $24,000 for. That's not fair to me in my same neighborhood. That's why we came up with this approach to cap it, and then we suggest having a step fee, which all that other room then is sucked up by. Does that make sense? It's this additional basket of funds that helps even out the cost for everybody.
So my other question is about if, let's say I'm 2 years away from having the sewer in front of my house, and maybe I have landscaping or a new driveway to put in now. So
is there an opportunity to somehow participate in the plan and get the work done before it's stuff out?
Absolutely, but there has to be a plan in place, right? If this goes.
And so my question, I guess, is that part of your plan? And do you
Yes.
see that being?
If this project goes to bid, then a contractor in essence is gonna have to project management, and they're gonna have to say where we're gonna start, where we're gonna go, and what timeline. So it'll be a rolling construction project, so people can know and people can plan. My vice chair, who isn't here tonight, he actually has his septic tank under his deck, so he knows in this process, gosh, I'm gonna have to redo my entire deck. But I wanna make some of these changes anyway, so he's excited for the work to come so that he can manage his property along with this project. We're going with the mic.
That's not what he was asking, though. He was asking, if he has to go ahead with this landscaping, driveway, whatever, it's gonna be out of his pocket right now until this has been approved, this gets close enough to his neighborhood, et cetera, does he get any recompense at the time that it is close to his property in 2 years' time?
I wouldn't think that the project would pay you back for work you're gonna do currently. I think the best case scenario is you know when this work is coming and you can project manage yourself and your property and do the work you wanna do instead of doing it twice. Because why would I redo my driveway this year knowing that next year they're coming to tear up the streets again? It would be a waste of my money.
He does it all the time.
I hear ya.
There seems to be some confusion about the decision tree of the having the council walk away. I'd like for our city engineer, Tom Hickman, to come up and kind of give us a little tutorial, if you all would go along with that. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks. Tom Hickman, Director of Engineering for the city. So just to clarify something here, how the process works, the way things are today. So your system fails today, you don't come to us, go to the county. And the county, the first thing they're gonna ask you is to go to the city, somebody like me, and they're gonna say, ask the city if there is capacity within 300 feet of where you live. You then show up at one of our offices and you ask that question. We simply look on a map, measure the distance down the street from where your house is to your nearest property line, and if you're within 300 feet, all we do is we provide you a letter that simply says, yes, we have sewer capacity within 300 feet. That's it. That's all we do. You then go take that letter back to the county. The county looks at that letter and the county will say, you cannot have a permit to fix your system. This is happening today. We have people that literally have thrown their house keys at us over this issue. They're sobbing in our offices and we have no tools. I've got no funding bank to turn to say, here's how we can help. I have nothing to offer you when that happens. As things are today, if council were to walk away from this decision, that's what you're facing. And what we're saying here is we've gone through the process that was part of this in the design process. We know the cost per foot to put in that pipe to your house is $700 to $800 per foot. Do the math. 300 feet times 800, that's $240,000 just to get the pipe to your property. That's not anything else. It's just that portion of it. And this kind of stuff has happened to people. And it's devastating to us because I have no resource, no tool to offer to say, here's how we can help. We literally have nothing in our bags to help when that happens. So I just want to clarify that this isn't that the city is sitting here saying, we're going to enforce this. This is a state law that gets enforced through the county. And then the county simply asks us that question and we answer it. So
Will the city require sidewalks because this is a new construction project. I know a number of neighbors in our area, because they've had construction projects, ADUs, for instance, they've had to put sidewalks in our neighborhood, sidewalks that go nowhere, because the city required it. Will that be required?
No.
Okay, and one more question. The $5 to $15 step fee across the city for 35,000 ratepayers, would that be something that ends every time a project is completed and then starts again when a new project, or does it just keep adding?
It starts as soon as we can get it to start, and it doesn't stop until the last septic is converted.
For 2,800 septic,
For all 2,800, including ours.
So that means 5 and 5 and 5 every time a new project starts, or that means...
No, it needs 5 from now until the whole thing is done.
Okay.
One thing I would like to say, just off the cuff, the committee has had a wonderful relationship with city staff during this study. And I have nothing but applause for the help and for the advice that they have given us, and for the education that we've gotten from the city engineering side and from the staff side. Let's keep going with the microphone.
Hi, Mr. Hickman. I was told that I have to connect to sewer, and I don't live in this specific area, but I live on Benham Road. And the estimates I've gotten are $60,000 to $120,000 out of my pocket. And what I want to know is, why does the city charge I was told a minimum of $10,000 just to get my plans approved?
Yeah, so
and that's in addition to the SDC 4,600.
Yeah, so first off, the cost per foot to connect is going to be different in every area where you live. It's not always $700 to $800 a foot. We just happen to know for this neighborhood, for this study area, that's the average cost, $700 to $800. When it comes to the permit fees, the plumbing fees, the review fees, that's all in the community development department. And those are all fees that are set as part of what we charge anyone in the city to go through that process if you were going through a remodel or anything like that. And part of that, my understanding, and again, I don't run that department, I have understanding of it. What I do understand is that the total cost, I was told it was between $8,000 and $10,000 when you included the SDCs. That was the last I checked. I could be wrong. But a big portion of that number is the SDCs, that $5,000. It's a big number. But I can't stand here and defend what the basis of all those fees are. I can tell you that council reviews those every year to ensure that they're actually based on something that's defensible. We don't just make those up. So.
Hi, I'm Phil Henderson. I live on Deschutes on Orion Drive. I've been there for 20 years. I'm a 29-year resident of Bend, and I'm one of 3 county commissioners. I have several questions. One comment I want to make is I don't really understand your idea that the city's going to start with the toughest neighborhood first. To me, if I was doing it, that's how I do things when I want to get something done that I really don't want to get done. But it's usually not how I get things done to learn. So that's why I'm going to ask 3 questions. So that's one question I have. The second one is, when was the 300-foot rule put in place at the state of Oregon? Do you know?
We can give you, the citation is up there. You can look it up.
Okay, well,
that's only one of 3.
Okay, well, that's good. I just like to know it because this is $100 million of money you're kind of putting out there as a project. What has the city spent at either trying to change that rule, because maybe our neighborhoods are different than the ones in Portland or Salem that these are all written by? So has the city spent $1 million trying to change the rule, get exempted from the rule, or anything like that? Because you're telling us that's the reason we're having to do it. So that's my second question. What's the city spent trying to change or challenge the rule? And then the third question I have you ever done a study or a survey where you've actually asked the people that live in this area, how many of them actually want to go to septic? So that's my third question, sewer. Because we have septic, we bought it with septic, we knew it was septic. How many people want to go to sewer? So those are my three questions. I think this thing is coming up because the city pushed through the southeast intercept without this all being vetted, that if we're going to do this, it's going to dramatically affect everybody in these neighborhoods, and it's cost us thousands and thousands of dollars to do it. So those are my three questions.
So I'm going to answer what I can. First off, I'm not an elected official. We have elected officials here, but so I don't do the lobbying to the state.
Save your questions for elected officials for Wednesday.
So yeah, so that would be a question for them, what conversations have had with the state legislature regarding this.
But you're enforcing those rules, and so to me, you're still part of the government that should be asking this question.
I can tell you, I've had conversations with our mayor, with Casey Rhodes, about this, where we've questioned what was the basis for the 300-foot rule, where did it come about? I don't know how far Casey took that. But certainly we've asked, we try to understand, but I haven't gone further trying to lobby anybody, and I'm not opposed to providing information to elected officials about what I know from the technical side. I can't, the policy side is really, I can't answer that. What drove it, why, those things. The other thing I want to clarify here is, I realize the Southeast Interceptor, when it came through, it certainly exacerbated the problem. But I want to be clear, the problem existed before the Southeast Interceptor ever happened. If you look on a map and you look prior where the sewer system is, we had homes within 300 feet before the Southeast Interceptor ever happened. And we were already facing this situation. So I certainly was raising this issue probably a decade ago that this is going to become explosive. We have to find a way to solve this problem. And, we now have a council that's addressing that problem. And that's the reality of it, is the Southeast Interceptors made it worse, but it isn't what drove it. It existed before that. In fact, when that development happened in Orion Greens, there's, I don't know, probably 20 homes there that are on the sewer system. Everything that's within 300 feet is currently triggered. And the other thing I'd like to point out is, the city's code says, as Dave pointed out, the city's code is more restrictive than the state, but the city has not to date enforced that. We haven't gone out and said, you're within 300 feet, you have 90 days to connect. It doesn't even matter if your system's failing or not. That's what the code says. It's that black and white. We haven't gone out and done that. I think those are some of the policy decisions that council's going to have to wrestle with this whole project.
The third question was, have you ever done a survey of how many people want to go to sewer?
I don't know that
I'm not aware of any survey that's been done for that.
There has been some public outreach groups, and there were some studies done before. There was another consulting firm that helped us through this. They facilitated a lot of our meetings, and they're out of Portland. It's called Clark & Worth, and they did some public outreach stuff. There's a couple several meetings that were recorded with neighborhood folks, and they said their opinion. And so we did get some feedback, and we know that.
To amplify on that, if you follow Nextdoor, and a lot of you do, because I've been following you on Nextdoor, and the poll that went out came back, 85% of you don't like the idea at all. Only 15% do. Let me give you my situation. I put in a brand new concrete septic tank last year. Brand new. Cost me $3,600. I put in a box that would allow somebody to come in and recondition my drain field. That cost me another $70 or $80 to get access to that. And there's a guy in town that will recondition your drain for $1,800. However, if the city council approves our plan, I'm going to be one of the first acceptors, because it will happen. If it doesn't happen to your septic this year, it will happen next year. And if it doesn't happen next year, it'll be the following year. And let me tell you what the Board of Realtors now is telling their real estate agents. You must tell anybody that buys a home in Kings Forest that they are liable, they're potentially liable for the full cost of hooking up to the right-of-way. To ask them to make one of the evaluation criteria, their ability and what's the word? What's non-resistance? Their willingness to negotiate with each of the property owners to do the private side construction, and it's a walkaway case. They got the equipment there, they've got the people there, they're running the hole down the middle of the street, just direct off 80 degrees to go to my house, keep going straight to get my neighbor, and go 80 degrees the other way and get to my other neighbor. And like I said, they have the equipment there, they've got the people there. We have asked the city to make that part, to make the willingness to negotiate with each property holder to do that work, and we're asking them to cap that at $7,000. So that's what the $7,000 cap is.
Can I ask the second part to that question? I live in one of the homes that will require a pump. Is that figured into the $25,000 cap, or is that an additional cost as well?
We've asked that to be capped. That too. Our thinking was, why would you put an additional $10,000 on a property that's a pump because of this project? So we're also thinking that if you know, and I think the engineering work is pointing to about 30 lots that are going to require a pump. So if you know 30 lots are going to need one, why don't you bulk purchase these pumps and hopefully get a better deal at them? And then that falls into the $25,000 cap also, yes. Because we didn't feel it was fair to be charging just 30 homes, $10 extra thousand because they're below grade. Wasn't not fair.
So she brought up remarket, and I feel like the focus of this committee is how to spread the cost amongst all the homeowners in this area. But they didn't ask to spread the cost of remarket just amongst the people that utilize remarket. It seems like we need to broaden this expense throughout the entire community. I think that should be the only focus, not.
We're asking for that also on the step fee. We're asking that step fee but be put in place to spread the risk. But it's all about what they're comfortable asking for the step fee to be. If they're comfortable at $5, then the most that we can ask the cap is at $25,000. If that step fee goes higher, that $25,000 ticket can go lower. It's all a weight on how much the rest of the city is asked to contribute to this problem.
Well, right now, you're saying there's another 2,800 homes. That's 3,400 homes. That's 10%.
2,800 total.
Whatever the number is. You're talking about 10% of the community as it is. If you want to solve the problem once and for all, it almost seems like it needs to be spread out amongst the community. We can't pick which roads, which people.
Absolutely, and that's our recommendation. That's our recommendation, and we are hoping that you all support our recommendations and just put pressure on the price tags and the balance of the spread.
Can you clarify that the fee to the rest of the community that you're asking council to consider?
Yeah,
I think that needs to be clarified a bit more for the room.
Sure. So we're asking council to cap this cost per septic home at $25,000. With that, we're asking for a step fee because we have learned from the city that There is no room in rates to pay for this project past a 50-50 split. That's all the rates can bear right now. So we're saying that that 50-50 split at about $60,000 per property owner is not affordable. So cap it at $25,000. Now that gap between the 60 and the 25,000 has to be paid by somebody. And we're recommending a step fee be implemented citywide, paid $5 a month by every ratepayer to support this gap. If City Council feels comfortable in a step fee being higher so they can get that gap lower and potentially charge each homeowner $15,000 or $5,000 or pay for the entire infrastructure because they want to make a step fee that high, that is all possible. But when we were going through this process, we felt like we won getting it as low as $25,000 because it already started at $60,000. Knowing that's all they could afford, that all rates can afford is it being $60,000 per home. Now, if there is a step fee put in place, we can at least, at $5 a month, get it down to $25,000. Does that make sense? Is that clear to everybody? If the step fee goes higher, the $25,000 can go lower. It's definitely possible. It's just on how we're going to spread this cost out. Because no matter what, the ratepayers are paying for it anyways. 50% of it at least.
Why don't you do a tax increment financing this?
So I have two questions. One is, when you retroactively do things, it's not the same as when you have a house built and sewer put in. So we all get our sewer put in. Most of us have no issues with our septic, and now all of a sudden we have issues with our toilets and stuff backing up. Who helps us out with that? Other question is, I've heard several times that people say the houses that are along Solomon, where the initial line went in, will not have to pay the public's hookup fee. Is that true?
That is part of our recommendations as well. And so there are 96 people along the SCI, and our recommendations as a committee, when we started this process, there was an interim policy developed. So there's people now that are currently along the SCI that are plugging in to the sewer now, and we have had them sign an interim policy saying all of this process is going. There still may be a connection fee to connect, and we don't know what that is yet. That is still something City Council has to grapple with, but we are recommending that these people pay a connection fee. They heard at some time they were going to get connected for free too, but our recommendations is if the rest of the neighborhood is paying for some infrastructure, that they're going to pay a connection fee too, to make it equal. What that connection fee is not our decision. Again, that's policy that council still has to decide, but our recommendations as a committee was to make it fair, yes, they need to pay their portion.
But they're not paying $18,000.
They could. We don't know what that connection fee is going to be, but when the SUI was developed, and he could speak to this better, but I'll do it fast. There was a big main put in the deep part of it because the SCI has to be deeper than even the sewer will be for you guys. The SCI is like 40 feet deep. So to have that big capacity main that deep was one cost, but there was a mini main above it which actually services the properties. And our recommendation to the city and city council is to take those 96 homes and just that mini main cost and divide that mini main cost, not the big SCI, but what is servicing their property among the 96, and that be the connection fee. So whatever the actual costs are for the mini main, we say divide by the 96, and that's your connection fee. The math and city council still have to grapple with what that cost will be. But I think it will be in upwards of $10,000 to $15,000 because that's what infrastructure costs. I mean, there's no way.
That's just our guess.
Right, and as a ratepayer, I currently am a ratepayer, we are all paying this 6% increase to pay for the SEI and to pay for all the other projects that are going on in the city. I mean, it's...
Yeah, so why doesn't the city help out and pay for it too?
They are, but they're...
We didn't get to vote whether or not we wanted to be in the city alone. The city got to vote too. I don't know about anybody else, but I didn't want to be part of it. And it's not fair. Yeah. We have to pay their sewage and everything, and they pay lower. Why can't we spread on the whole city?
But that's what we're recommending. We're recommending that with the step fee and with this cap. But the city
No, I
has told us.
25,000. Why can't they help?
Because the city already has a list of 10 other projects going around citywide, and the ratepayer dollars can't pay for more than this project.
Yeah, but then they should have never voted us.
Hi. So I'm going to have to leave in a couple minutes because I have another meeting. So I wanted to say, as Mayor Pro Tem, I am going to lead this work session on Wednesday. So a couple of things. First of all, I'm standing here today. This is a really, really difficult discussion for our community. And the reason I got interested was, number one, because when the Sewer Infrastructure Advisory Committee back in 2012 and 2013 were sitting around with a really diverse stakeholder group around the table, we all realized that there were going to be some people in Southeast Bend whose septics were going to fail and that they were going to need at some point to connect to sewer. And so we've been looking for ways to move those individuals through the system in a way that wouldn't sink them financially. Last year, about a year and a half ago, I worked with a family whose septic failed and they were selling their house. And they had to get on the sewer, and I was working with the city to try to negotiate this bill that was between $50,000 and $68,000. That was a lot of money for one individual family. So, from my point of view, I want to go back to the city council doesn't need to set a policy on this, but we wanted to work with the neighborhoods because we realized that there's some people who are waiting to figure out if they're going to shoulder this burden alone by themselves. Probably for a lot of you today, that's not your situation, but we do have community members, and they're right there, right now. And so, I mean, do we let individuals move through this, and does the council make no policy that in the end makes it more fair for the inevitability that if someday your septic's going to fail, and there are laws that are currently outside our control? I don't know the answer to that. That's why we asked this committee to look into it. And we asked them also to reach out to the community and all those people who are going to be affected so we can figure out our way through it. This is really difficult. It's difficult standing here in this room. I wouldn't want to be in your shoes, but I work with people who are in really different shoes and need something done. I don't know how to get there. So on Wednesday, my request to you is, I know you don't want to do it, I get that. It's really clear. Nobody really wants to have you to do that. But the question is, also, do you want to be that person who's got the bill that's somewhere between $50,000 and $68,000? You really don't want to be there either. So please come with not only the, whether or not you want it to happen or not, or why, but think about how can we, if you're the person whose septic fails and you've got to get from here to there, what are the tools you need that maybe through us as a city together we can provide for you, so if hopefully this never happens to you, but in the case that it does, we can be ready there to make it a softer place for you to move into. Again, I mean, we're looking to you. It's tough and it's not simple. We have not made any decisions. I mean, we could back away from this issue, but we know there are people who are being affected. So I just wanted to say thank you all. There were over 270 people in this room. We know it's really important for community. So, and I want to especially thank our staff people who sunk extra hours in trying to figure out ways to move through this solution in economically, cost-effective ways, and for our neighborhood groups who came together and spent hours and hours, again, looking for solutions to move our community through. So I just wanted to say thank you, and I'll see you in a couple days.
Henry, let's
Thank you.
follow the microphone.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to follow the microphone. We're going to go to here. So Sally's taking off now. The meeting is not over, so you're welcome to stay.
I'm Rebecca Tatum. I live on Greenmont. And as a follow-up to her question, it feels like one of the key themes here is that this sense of a paucity of city resources to do something that I might say, yes, this is something I want to see done, and I want to thank the committee as well for doing what feels like work that I might imagine the city could do, which is find money to pay for a public service. And I agree that there's a private cost and all of that. So one question. When I look at the recently approved UGB and I look at the map of the city of Bend and I drive around, one of the two primary areas that the city intends to develop is the elbow down by Knott Road. I don't know if that's directly served by the Southeast Interceptor, but
it will be.
Okay, so can we not consider the fact that Bend is booming? We have an enormous influx of people, and that there's a huge rate of new houses being built. And is there not a way to leverage new home construction to offset the 2,800 old Bendites who have been here and might or may not want to move on to sewer? That's question number one. Question number two is...
Let me address your first one first.
Okay, address my first one. Thank you.
Anytime that any work is done in the elbow, it's going to be on clean ground. And the price of putting in electrical, power, water, sewer is all done by the developer, and it's tacked onto the price of your house.
Yes, I understand that. I guess what I'm asking is, can they leverage an additional fee for those new constructions that's going to use the same sewer main that's triggered the 300-foot hole that's causing that? So it looks like he has an answer.
Real quick to answer that, and I know you have a second question.
Yeah, no,
the short answer is yes, and we do. There's a bunch of laws around that. We don't get to arbitrarily set any fee, any amount that we want. Everything we set has to be defensible, believe it or not. We get sued constantly on everything we set, right? So it has to be defensible in court. So on that one, we cover that within what we call our SDC, System Development Charges, and we're asking those developers to carry the bulk of the cost of the Southeast Interceptor. So that, and many other projects as well. We're asking them to cover the bulk of the cost for transportation pieces. We're asking them to carry the bulk of the cost for a lot of water systems. So we do, in short, but we have to leveraging, like putting a special fee that says it's just for this issue would not fly. We would lose in court on that because they would simply say, look, there's no nexus that we're triggering this. That's the legal term that we have to follow.
So I'm asking that question is this a viable question for us to take to council on Wednesday? Is to say, how can the new development and new construction in Bend be leveraged to support this public works project?
I will tell you one other additional piece to this. The new development, they can just go in and rip and tear. You see them do it. They take out all the trees. They just flatten the land and put in the infrastructure. In this particular project, because you guys have beautiful trees and beautiful homes already landscaped, this is going to take more money to solve because they already have to figure out where the utilities are and try not to mess them all up. To go back into an established neighborhood and put in infrastructure and not wreck it is going to take extra money to do, where a developer just can, thrash it, and the fees are a little bit less when they just trash it like that instead of going specifically and put in infrastructure.
The relevance here, partly I think for me, is that there's a culture conversation around what is Bend, what is the future that we want Bend to look like, and so it's less about, I totally understand the, individual costs and differences of that, but it's sort of, is this going to, does it not make sense to leverage some development?
So let me play devil's advocate as a ratepayer.
And I understand other folks have questions, and I've already been standing here for a long time, so I apologize.
There's going to be 35,000 ratepayers that are going to be pissed off about a new fee they got to pay every month too. So we're really asking all of Bend to be a better community. And even if that's just $5, some people are going to be really upset. I got to pay $5 a month for a problem that
$200 a year.
Yeah, $60 a year potentially, and you're asking 35,000 people to now contribute to this problem that didn't contribute before. And if we say, and council agrees that 25,000 is too much, we're going to ask them to contribute even more. And I'm hoping that's the kind of community that we have, is the rest of these ratepayers say, you know what, this is a water problem, this is an infrastructure problem. I'm happy to give up a couple of coffees a month to solve this problem citywide. So I know that this is a pocket of 600 homes, but really it's impacting 35,000 ratepayers as well. I mean, there's another side of the coin to that. Go ahead.
So what we're going to do, because we're having a problem with equality of getting the questions answered, Henry's now in the center aisle. If we can have people with questions go to the center aisle and sort of line up, because it's sort of unfair of who's getting asked and who's getting answered. And this is the only way we can do it to make sure everybody's question gets answered. So if you do have a question, Henry's going to be in the middle. So just line up in the middle. Sorry, but this should work better.
My question, Graham Ross, I live outside the impact area, but I'm located on Sewer. And one of the things that in my Air Force career, I've lived everywhere from Redondo Beach, owned a house, to Austin, Texas. And I've seen this played out many times in many communities. One of the things that would help in the sales of this, and you guys did a great job in the S2S, of coming up with brutal political calculus that I know behind the scenes is coming up. How much can we push the city to pay? What can all of us afford? We don't want to pay this bill. For the first admit it's not in my budget. But along with the lines, I don't see anything here right now that says, how many trees should I cut down? Would that help the price? Should all of us be cutting down some of our trees to help lower the price of this thing? Or is this just like a take it or leave it kind of cost thing?
I can speak a little to that. So Sally mentioned before that the 2012 SIAG group had already met, and they made the decisions about the SEI and where it was going to go. They also made a decision to set aside ratepayer dollars. So currently, $1 million a year are being set aside to solve this problem. That money has funded our committee work. That money has funded this engineering. I mean, we are already at almost a class 3 and going to a class 1 in engineering. So, I mean, some of this benefit that ratepayers are already paying to solve this problem is happening as well. So $1 million a year are going to solve this problem for you guys and paying for your engineering. I mean, us as ratepayers are already paying to have this work done for you, over $1 million a year. So, did I not answer your question completely?
Well, what I'm looking for is,
sorry.
What we're looking for is, are we powerless in this except to write the checks? Or should I be digging up trees right now? What should I be doing to help my part of solving the problem?
Right. I think that's a policy question to council too. It goes back to, if you guys don't believe you should contribute at all for the infrastructure, that's something that you can absolutely tell them. We don't want to pay anything for this infrastructure. We believe it's a city problem and you guys should provide it for us. But I'm going to tell you, they're going to come back and say, well, there used to be money out there. There used to be federal dollars to help in projects like this. There used to be state funds to help in projects like this. And there just aren't anymore. And our community is growing at such a rate that, I mean, we're growing faster than anywhere else in Oregon. And it's sad that in this day and age, there's not money to help cities like us move along, but there are no more dollars. Do you want to?
So we just met on Friday, I think it was. God, the days go by quick. With Senator Merkley's staff, we're reaching out to Walden staff, we're reaching out to Biden staff to talk to them about this issue and say this is not an issue that just impacts Bend. This is an issue that's repeating itself in other communities. This is happening in other locations. And so, you know, we're trying to identify that this is a serious problem. We've also pointed to the fact that back in 1978, when the city initially put in sewer, that's when the city put in its first real sewer system, the federal government funded that project to the tune of 95%. The local community paid about 5-6% for the initial sewer infrastructure. There were a lot of federal dollars available through grants to do those kinds of things across the country. Today, that is zero. There's just nothing there to help us. We are also working with the state. There's what's called the State Revolving Loan Fund, and it's a low-interest loan program. We just recently had a meeting with them, and typically, what we're talking about here does not qualify or meet their requirements for funding, because they don't typically fund like the private side of this. We're working with them to figure out, can we come up with a way to get some of those low interest loans to help fund this? So we're not done on our side trying to do this, trying to get the cost down as much as we can. On your side, unfortunately, in terms of what can you do, it is, to me, it is talking to council. It is going to them and bringing up what are the policy issues that you're asking them to consider and should be considering. As far as cutting down trees, unfortunately, that won't lower the cost, because probably really, to be honest with you, part of the bigger cost is the fact that you've got natural gas, you've got power, you've got fiber optic, you've got all these other things in the ground. So trying to protect those when you're putting in this infrastructure really is what drives up the cost. If you went out to, as Dave was mentioning earlier, to a new development, they're using dynamite. They don't really care that they blow up a 40-foot wide swath of earth. That's not a big deal. So that's how it gets costed.
My name is Mary Fleischman. I live on Camelot Place, and I think the biggest issue I'm having, let alone the cost, is the fact that we've got a city council that is reactive, not proactive. Some of this could have been dealt with when they started annexing in, and they continue to annex in. We need to stop. We need to stop and pay attention to what's going on here, because it's going to be an ongoing problem for 30, 40, 50 years. Yes, Ben's growing. It's got to stop until the infrastructure gets figured out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I come from the corporate world, and the way we solve problems is the first thing we do is we identify what the problem is. And I frankly am having some difficulty understanding whether we have a problem here that needs an urgent solution. And I'd like the audience here to speak to you guys through a show of hands for those of you here that have a septic system, raise your hand if your septic system is failing now, or you believe it is going to fail really soon. Now thank you. I'd like to ask the rest of you that have a septic system, how many of you feel like me, where I have a septic system that's really operating well? It's got 2 drain fields, a primary and a secondary. I'm still on the primary. If it fails, I can switch to the secondary. And therefore, I don't think we need this solution at this time. It may be sometime down. How many of you feel the way I do?
Now, do you guys have data on how many people's homes?
All we have is county records. These are county records of the age of tanks in this particular study area. And all of the ones in blue are over 25 years old, which the county says is the life of a tank.
Well, my hip hurts, but I'm not going to go get a hip replacement.
No, I totally hear you. I totally understand.
What I'm going to say at the city council meeting on Wednesday is that I think you've done a good job at coming up with a solution, but I don't think it's the right solution right now. I think the other thing we do in the corporate world is we usually come up with alternative solutions, meaning multiple solutions to a problem. And I'm thinking that very small local improvement districts could be used for the rare case where someone's 1,000 feet from or more from a sewer main, and they want to hook up to a septic system, and they can get Tom, Dick, and Harry, their neighbors, to go in with them and put an LID in. And so I think you guys need to go back and develop some better solutions in light of what the audience just told you here.
utilities and stormwater is two different things. Jail board, I used to be a cable guy for 13 years when it was Ben Cable, then became Ben Broadband. It was a senior service tech. All the utilities are direct buried, not in conduit. So you're going to chew them all up when you go through stuff, and it is the business's responsibility to put the conduits in, not the homeowners being a service tech from Ben Broadband. The other part is the stormwater. When I saw that, so I had my house for 19 years, I didn't like it, and I started protesting the stormwater. I've been in collections twice, but also the city took advantage of it because I've been hospitalized 5 times. So every time I went in the hospital, they imposed a gigantic fee because I didn't pay the small little fee. And I told them, and I kept calling and saying, I have memory problems now, brain issues. You need to call to get the payment if you want it. And don't put this giant fee on just because I didn't pay because I was in the hospital. They never did that. And then I told them too, the collection agencies need to go away because I'll never pay them. I don't care about credit ratings anymore. Never checked it. Hey, I've never heard from the collection agencies again. They started another bill.
Can we get back to
They
sewer?
started the same thing. And they, just a second. I told the lady, I had a discussion with her on the phone. I said, I'm seeing blind threats on the back of this letter. Because they're saying they can turn off my utilities. And I said, I see blind threats. And she said, what do you mean? And I said, well, I have a septic system, and I have Avion water and CEC. You can't turn off any of those. And the lady had to get her supervisor and finally said, you are right, sir, I am sorry. And then we went on with a conversation.
Can we get back to the Septic-to-Sewer? What is your question?
I'm just saying it's all utilities are direct buried. They're not in conduit either. So when they start touching your property, they're going to chew up all utilities. You're going to need conduits from wherever the thing is out to the utility.
Do you have a question?
And then the other was just, I've heard a lot of people talking about stormwater
We
issues.
have to let you get a 3-minute comment, sir. I'm sorry.
Pardon me. Relatively simple question. Where is the Southeast Interceptor unit going to run?
The Southeast Interceptor is already done.
right
And it's
there.
down King Solomon Lane. It goes down Ferguson to Chloe. It goes across Chloe to 15. Goes down to 15 to where the Murphy intersection is going to be. And then it goes under the tracks and goes all the way over to 3rd. It's in.
So houses that are right on 15th going that direction, they're a little ways from where the interceptor will be, is that right?
Yes, they are, but they are not in this study area.
Yeah, so remember, the study area was
99.
No, I was going to say, how many homes was it?
599.
509 homes. So that's
99.
what the committee focused on. But that does not mean, you might be across the street from the study area. That does not mean this is not relevant information for you, but that was what the council was formed, or the city council formed the committee for. So that is what they have a lot of the data for. So we just have to remember that. So when it does come to specific technical questions, so that we can answer.
Go ahead.
Next question.
I live in Desert Woods.
Yes.
I live on Westview Drive. Now it shows that something is going down the middle of that road. What is that?
That is the planned public right-of-way infrastructure.
Which includes what? What does that mean? Is it a sewer pipe? Is that what's coming down that road?
So we surveyed the whole area, and that's probably what you're seeing so we could come up with costs of what's it going to cost to put in the sewer line through there. So what you're seeing is the survey markings that go with that.
So when is my area supposed to be hooked up?
That's what this whole thing is about. So this, what the committee's recommendation is that we start construction this next spring. If we did, you would expect to see that sewer would be going on. It could start, depending on the contractor, it could start next summer, but it would probably no more than a year and a half before you started seeing construction on your street.
And the other thing is, has the DEQ been involved in this? Because I've been looking at a 2006 study that shows that there is nothing underneath us that will be affected by septic systems.
Yeah, so we worked with DEQ through this whole thing, and this comes back to a prior comment a gentleman made, I believe, regarding is there a groundwater problem at this point? And the answer is no, not that I'm aware of. We don't. I can't point to a report or even to all of the analysis that we do on our groundwater. I can't point to nitrogen loading. I can't point to phosphorus loading. Those are all indicators of a problem. To answer your question, that gets back to what somebody was saying before. What generated this whole rule by the state of being within 300 feet? And again, I'm guessing it's around groundwater quality, but I couldn't tell you for certain.
But there is no groundwater in our area.
There is. Oh, there's a lot.
Not according to the DEQ report that I read and the maps that show there are no aquifers underneath this area.
It's actually the world's largest freshwater aquifers underneath our feet right now. It's one of the most amazing aquifers there is. But it's anywhere on this end of town, it's about 350 feet deep to hit it. As you head to the center part of town, our wells there run 800 to 1,000 feet deep. But we have 24 wells in the greater Bend area, and Avion has a number of wells on the south part of town.
Well, I was just surprised that the map that was on this DEQ study that depicted aquifers did not show one under our particular area.
The USGS did one of the largest studies back in, I want to say 2000, 2001, and looking at this aquifer and looking at the issues around this aquifer. And that study it's a couple inches thick and tons of information about the issues with this aquifer, but that's all separate from this conversation. But
DEQ covers the whole state, and we looked into while we were doing our study, we looked into other cities that had gone through the same problem, and several of the cities that were required to go from septic to sewer had their groundwater affected. So DEQ doesn't make regional law; they make state law. And
but
when you
they
have
also do studies.
I understand that, but when you have a state law, it applies to the whole state. So if you want to change it, you got to change it at the state level.
All right. Well, now, bearing in mind that if you're within 300 feet of an interceptor, it says in the thing that was sent me in the mail, it says that the law, the state law and the city law say that you absolutely, it says you have to hook up.
The city law does, the state does not. The state law says
city law says under, in this report it says under certain circumstances.
And that would be if your neighbor, that would be if your neighbor called and said, my neighbor's yard smells like, could you have somebody come out and check it? And somebody comes out and checks it, and sure enough, it does smell like the drain system has failed or the septic tank has failed. Under that circumstance, the city could invoke, you have 90 days to hook up to a sewer if you're within 300 feet.
All right. And by the way,
And by the way, if you didn't do it within 90 days, they can charge you $750 fee every day.
that's in city code.
That's in the code as well.
That they have never enforced and don't ever want to, probably.
A tax increment financing district like what they have in downtown Bend. My house would generate $23,000 in taxes for a project like this with no additional taxes paid by me. That could be done, and that's how they paid for this, the sidewalks and the overlook and the park downtown.
Senator,
Put it into your mouth.
Yeah, so
Repeat that question, please.
yeah, so the question is using some type of taxing district to leverage the value of the properties to pay for this. I don't know all the rules around creating a taxing district. I would be a little surprised if the laws allow us to use a taxing district to do this. I'm looking a little bit to Justin back there. You have better information than I do. We are looking at a number of funding mechanisms, LIDs, which is similar, but it actually would cost you. An LID is not where it's using the property value. So I'm going to ask Justin.
We also have City Councilor Justin Livingston, who's been listening in the back of the room.
Good afternoon. When you're talking about tax increment financing as an urban renewal area, an urban renewal can only be used in areas that are considered blighted, and which can be greenfield developments, but then urban renewal will be places like the Central District, down just east of the Parkway. So, because what you do is you freeze an increment financing is you freeze the tax base currently, and then as it redevelops, that increase in property taxes goes to pay back the financing district. And so in this case, I would say that that mechanism wouldn't work in this area, because I assume nobody wants redevelopment in the area.
Well, they didn't redevelop downtown when they used that.
Yeah.
But that would get the homeowner to where they would pay no additional taxes, and then the money would go to the city, so he could, if you had a desperate situation for a homeowner, they could allocate money to solve individual problems one at a time with a pot of money for the tax increment district.
Well, so the increment is, like I said, is you freeze the tax rate, and you basically freeze the property values at the existing values, and then as development or redevelopment occurs, and you have, say, a new building that comes in that would produce more property tax value to taxable assessed value, that increment, so that portion, instead of going to the city or to the parks or to the school district or any of the other taxing authorities, that money then gets diverted into the urban renewal agency that pays back the debt financing that was used to finance the project.
So everybody's property taxes go up 3% a year.
That's correct.
When you freeze that 3% compounded annually would then go into the tax increment.
That only works in a blighted area.
Yeah. And Robert's right, so state law only allows it to be, you can only use it in blighted area, and I would say that this area is not blighted.
You slap $25,000 to $50,000 on everybody, you might see some blight.
Well.
My name is Bob Waters, and the whole issue for me is dollars. I understand on my property, if I hook up to the sewer, I should have to pay out to the right of way, but I don't understand why I should have to pay the portion down the right of way to meet my home. And that's the whole issue in my mind here. It would be, I understand that taxes or something would have to pay for that, it would have to be paid for, but I don't think the individual homeowner should have to pay for that portion down the road. And I think that's the big issue for me.
So,
welcome to the scene, Justin.
So, what the city, as a general rule, does not pay for sewer lines in neighborhoods. What we do is we build and pay for interceptor lines, like the Southeast Interceptor, or the North Interceptor out of the north end of town. That's what the sewer system pays for and builds. A developer, like in my house, is just out east here, was built in 2006. The developer that developed that neighborhood paid for and put in all of the sewer infrastructure in that neighborhood and connected it to one of the city's interceptor lines. And so when your houses were built with septic, theoretically they were cheaper because they had septic, and they didn't. My house, when it was built, I'm sure it probably cost $30,000 to $40,000 for that developer per lot to put that sewer in, and that was built into the house or the price of my house when it was purchased. So I mean, does that?
I don't think our homes were any cheaper when we bought them. We didn't get a discount because we had a septic system.
Because we live in Van Order.
Yeah, that theory.
Well, but when these houses.
I understand. I just don't think that theory really works. That the developers do pay the fee now, and I agree. But that doesn't work for us because we don't get a discount because we bought a house that's already developed for the city of Bend and annexed it into the area.
Yeah, now what you're talking about is something different. Because you're on large lots now, your houses are more valuable versus a 4,000 square foot lot. So the market, the free market has changed a little bit of that because there's a lot of people, myself included, don't want to.
The services weren't there when the properties were developed.
Correct.
So if you're coming back in and retroactively, I guess, developing the area, right, which should have been taken care of when the loan funds were available, when you annexed it in, right, prior to your seat in council and all this other fun stuff. I think the phrase is, sins of our fathers, right? That, like, the early council screwed it up, so now we all have to fix it.
I agree. And when the area was annexed in 1998, which predates by a couple of years my even living in the city of Bend, I agree. A plan should have been put together then.
None of us wanted that, right? But the entire city got to vote on that. So now I feel like the entire city should have to support what they voted on.
Remember my first slide that said history. Replay that 1998 film all you want to, and the same thing happens. 20 years ago, 10 councils have kicked it down the road, and I have nothing but praise for the city council this year to have the guts to take this up.
I appreciate you guys approaching it in the Septic-to-Sewer committee. Like, it's great work. It's just a little infeasible.
Us, I think is what he's saying. Are they involved in all of this communication that you're giving to our 599 homes? So you're large. So are all the other, on the other side of the river, all those other areas getting?
Have they been mailed? No, because the engineering work hasn't started in their neighborhood.
But they need to know that.
No, I've spoken to multiple neighbors, say in the Pinebrook neighborhood, just on the other side of the parkway, because they're in the same situation. Although they actually tried to do this in 2004, they chose not to. They actually had a vote because. So one of the things that you will possibly get a vote depending upon one of the financing mechanisms. So if we use a local improvement district as a financing mechanism, you actually will have a chance to vote. And if people vote against it, so be it, I guess. But and then it falls apart. But the issue is then you're on the hook for maybe a couple